When the best players in the world share the court, something special is supposed to happen. High-flying dunks, three-point shootouts, superstars trading buckets, and everything in between. That's the goal of the NBA All-Star Game. One 48-minute showcase of talent where stars go head-to-head. A game that's produced countless iconic moments like Magic Johnson's return to basketball, LeBron and Kobe matching up one-on-one, or Allen Iverson's fourth-quarter comeback. Recent years have been all about finding a way to revive that feeling, and the NBA tried everything: drafts, tournaments, format changes. Throughout this process, one thing became clear: if the stakes are there, the players want to win. We saw that in 2020 when one simple change created the most intense All-Star finish ever. Back in 2007, a professor named Nick Elam had an idea: remove the clock entirely. To eliminate late-game intentional fouling and make the end of games more intense, teams would compete to reach a target score instead of racing against time. It wasn't until 2017 that he'd get to see his idea come to fruition with the creation of the basketball tournament, and it was a major success. When Kobe Bryant tragically passed in 2020, the league wanted a way to pay tribute, and the perfect idea was right in front of them. So that year's game adopted the Elam ending. After 3 12-minute quarters, the clock was turned off. The fourth quarter started with 24 points added to the score of the leading team. Now they were chasing a target, and it changed everything. To understand why this was such a big deal, we'll have to take a moment to highlight the type of talent that was on the court. Almost everyone involved in this game can play one-on-one and legitimately beat their matchup. There's tons of shooting, passing, and scoring versatility, so when defenders get lackadaisical, it's easy to see why point totals are capable of getting up to 200. What gets lost in all of this, though, is that this game also tends to feature some of the world's best defensive talent. In 2020, Team Giannis featured Rudy Gobert and Bam Adebayo, while Team LeBron featured Anthony Davis and Ben Simmons, all of which finished in the top 5 for Defensive Player of the Year voting. That's not to mention Kawhi Leonard, Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid, or Jimmy Butler, among plenty of others. If they wanted to get stops, they could. They just needed an incentive to defend. After 3 quarters of play, Team Giannis held a lead of 133 to 124, meaning whoever reached 157 points first would take home the win. The first thing that jumped out to me was that these players clearly wanted to compete. How many times in an All-Star game have you seen a player crash into a packed paint to secure a second chance opportunity, draw 4 defenders into his airspace, and pick up a foul call? How many times have you seen a player like Russell Westbrook catch the ball with 20 feet of space, only to stare down 2 of the game's best rim protectors and drive right into their chests to draw a foul of his own? In general, the physicality was unlike anything we're used to seeing. Not only is Simmons cheating over to help on a post-up, as soon as Embiid starts backing down, he and Sabonis are both exerting tons of force to the point where it probably should have been another whistle. A few minutes later, Siakam caught the ball in a similar spot, but this time Giannis flashes to an even deeper post position, only for LeBron to stonewall him, swipe down, and force a turnover. Just look at how engaged everyone is. That also crept into the attention to detail on both sides. As Giannis looks to post up Russ, not only are they fighting for position, notice how Booker's ready to come over and help. The ball never gets there because Simmons eviscerates the entry pass, kickstarting a transition opportunity where instead of giving up a layup, Embiid chooses to commit an intentional foul. Transition defense was a big point of emphasis for both teams. Not only are they getting back to slow the push, but they're cross-matching to not give up a numbers advantage. With CP3 on Siakam, LeBron roams over to help, while Kawhi handles a 2-on-1 on the weak side, where he uses his long arm to take away a skip pass. You'd think this would lead to easy points, only for Kyle Lowry to step in and take a charge. Yes, a charge in the All-Star game. And I want to take a special moment to talk about Kyle Lowry because a big part of the reason he was in the game to begin with was the way he mastered the little things. Lowry's game epitomizes high intensity, attention to detail, sharp defensive rotations, and putting his body in the right spot at the right time. So when the game called for that, he kinda stole the show. After AD contests his 3 from Kemba, he leaks out on the break. So when LeBron grabs the rebound, he immediately looks for him down court, only for Kyle to break up the pass and draw another offensive foul. A few minutes later, LeBron actually looked to attack him in early offense with a high ball screen. He takes the switch, then switches again when Bron sets one for Harden, and now he's on an island with the game's best isolation player, to which he forces a long step back jumper. I don't think it's a hot take to say he laid his body on the line more in these few minutes than anyone else in All-Star Game history. Some guys out there wouldn't take a charge against LeBron in the playoffs, let alone an exhibition, although this time he doesn't get the whistle and Paul hits a 3. Speaking of which, this version of LeBron was impossible to guard in the open floor. Even with Siakam slowing the push and Lowry and Embiid helping from both sides, it takes a foul to prevent a layup. And it's the exact same thing with Giannis on the other end. It takes 3 defenders walling off the rim to keep him away, resulting in a wide open jumper for Kemba. It wasn't just in transition where they built a wall against Giannis though. Notice how everyone instinctively sinks to the middle of the floor as he comes down, which speaks to the intentional defensive strategy. Obviously these guys hadn't played enough together to develop an actual defensive scheme, but there's a certain rule of thumb that comes with guarding specific players. In the case of Giannis, you have to take away the middle of the floor. So when he starts to isolate and Lowry empties the wing, notice how Booker sits at the nail while Paul plays the other gap, once again building the wall. Then as he backs up to play from the wing, Simmons comes over from the weak side to build an even stronger wall, even though he's kicking it out to all-star level offensive players. On this one, Giannis gets a mismatch with Paul and sets up from the nail. Simmons crowds that space while Sabonis cheats over from the weak side to take away the paint, and Giannis does a great job of collapsing the help before kicking it out, but the defense does an even better job of closing out and recovering, then forces a contested long 2. In addition to aggressive help, another key defensive principle for both teams was switching. Team LeBron in particular fielded out a lineup with little to no weaknesses in terms of matchups. By starting Harden on Giannis, when there's a screen, he can jump out to Lowry while Kawhi takes the big man. No mismatches. Then when the ball gets to Giannis and he looks to play one-on-one, here comes LeBron with an early rotation, while AD helps late to completely take away the rim. The only real disadvantage was CP3's size. So when Giannis gets him on a switch, you're going to see Harden come over and execute a scram switch behind the play so that by the time he gets the ball, there's no mismatch. Then of course, AD and LeBron cheat way over to wall off the paint. Not even 30 seconds later, Team Giannis did the exact same thing. Kawhi screens to get a switch on to Kemba, and Siakam immediately scrams him out of there to avoid a mismatch. Then about a minute later, we saw it a third time. Giannis screens to get Paul, only for him to hand that matchup right off to Kawhi, and instead of a big time advantage in the post, you end up with Lowry trying to create against LeBron one-on-one. These are high-level playoff defensive concepts being deployed in the All-Star game, but naturally the offense had counters. For example, you can't scram switch if the guy handling the ball is the one looking for a mismatch. So by having Paul set a screen, LeBron's able to get Kemba on an island. That triggers some early help from Joel on the weak side, meaning that when AD cuts through, they're able to gain a big advantage by moving the ball. Now Joel has to close to Harden, who knocks down a corner 3. Here's another example. Paul screens to get Kemba on Kawhi, who immediately takes it to the post. Naturally, both Siakam and Joel collapse to the paint, only for Joel to make a hard recovery to Paul on the perimeter, which then creates a new mismatch, a mismatch of speed, although he isn't able to capitalize. For that reason though, instead of switching with Embiid like they were with everyone else, they had him dropping back against ball screens and prioritizing the paint. Generally with drop coverage, you're relying on your big to control the 1-on-2 advantage, while the low man helps behind the play by tagging the role if needed. But I want you to focus on the talent on the court. With Kawhi and Harden spacing on the weak side, the defense can't really bring help. So instead of a third defender, the pick and roll is a straight up 2-on-2. And this is why I highlighted the defensive talent between Embiid and Giannis, because they completely shut down that Bron and AD pick and roll. Here it is again a few minutes later. LeBron turns the corner with Embiid back and drop, but this time AD pops, which puts Kyle in a position to stunt and recover. Naturally, that flows right into a 5-out isolation for Harden, and it doesn't take much for him to create an advantage, but AD misses an extra pass opportunity and instead opts for an awkward sidestepping 3. Team LeBron's late game offense was all about attacking that drop coverage. This time it's Harden who's initiating, but I want you to note how LeBron spaces deep on the wing, and that's so Giannis isn't in position to help. Instead, help comes from the strong side corner, and when Paul attacks a closeout, Kemba's forced to peel switch onto Harden. Now that's a mismatch to attack one-on-one, so Embiid helps from the weak side while Giannis drops to the dunker and meets AD at the rim, only for the ball to get right back to him for a second chance opportunity. We even saw some designed set action to attack the drop. As Harden hands the ball off to Kawhi, Paul's gonna cut baseline and take away the help, creating an empty side pick and roll. And as long as Embiid's dropping back, that's an automatic pull-up jumper, tying the game at 150 apiece. We've seen intense back and forths in the All-Star game, but I personally can't remember a time where it felt like there was a true chess match between offensive and defensive concepts. These last few minutes really felt like a playoff game featuring the greatest talents in the world. Every strategy these defenses implemented got countered by high-level offense, only for the defense to then respond again with a counter of their own, creating a truly unique and captivating environment. Remember though, it all started with effort from the players. When Kyle Lowry tried to take his third charge, LeBron had a running mate, giving them their first lead of the fourth with only 2 scores left to win. Team Giannis came down and cleared a side of the floor for Embiid to work out of the post, and after a Hakeem Olajuwon-esque shimmy, he tied it back up. anybody's game. From this point on, defensive effort was dialed up to 100. Team LeBron went back to that exact same action from earlier, with Harden handing the ball off to Kawhi for an empty side pick and roll, only this time Embiid jumps out to the ball on a switch to take away that space, then forces him baseline to close off the rim. He finds LeBron in the wing, who isn't able to take advantage. So next time down, they opted for some Harden ball. He's going to use a screen to get a switch onto Giannis, then they clear out to let him go one-on-one. Lowry's active behind the play with some aggressive help, but Harden gets the step anyways and draws a foul. Naturally, they went right back to him a play later. This time it's Siakam who he looks for with the screen, and it's the same thing. They clear out, he gets the step, draws help, kicks it out, and Team LeBron does a great job of moving the ball, only for Team Giannis to do an even better job of rotating, and that's just high-level basketball. Crunch time was pretty much your turn, my turn offense, because now LeBron's the one looking for a mismatch, and Kemba mistakenly plays the wrong side of the screen, leaving Bron with a runway to the basket, only for Giannis to make a superhuman recovery. Initially, the call was a goaltend, but upon review, they deemed it a legal block, and on the replay, it's truly as close as it gets. A real 50-50 call. My favorite part about all of this, though, again, was the buy-in. As Kemba sets up the offense, all of Team LeBron's bench is up on their feet, completely engaged. They wanted to win. When Siakam gets the ball against Harden in the post, look at them. Have you ever seen a bench so involved? Harden holds his ground but gets called for a foul, and the bench wasn't having it. I want to take a second to highlight Harden's defense, though. He's staring down Kemba one-on-one and sitting down. He wants this stop. And after forcing a kickout, Paul gets beat on a closeout, only for Harden to immediately pick up in the paint, give a bump, and contest a fall-away jumper. Then he came down on the other end with the intention of ending the game, only to get beat to his spot and called for an offensive foul against who else but Kyle Lowry. So they went back to running things through LeBron. Once again, you're going to see Paul set a screen to get Kemba switched onto the ball, and because a 3 would end the game, everyone chooses to stay home, truly clearing out and letting him play one-on-one. It doesn't take much for him to create a lane to the basket, and just like that, they're a free throw from winning it. As you'd expect, they went right back to it next time down. The defensive coverage was a little bit different though. At first it looks like a switch, only for Giannis to run back to the ball and fix the matchups, forcing an offensive reset. LeBron immediately sets a screen for Paul, who gets a great look but can't knock it down. On the other side of things, Team Giannis went back to Old Faithful, an empty side post up for Embiid against LeBron. And at first it looks like they might get the stop. Maybe the pivot foot slides a bit, only for Embiid to end up drawing a foul. He hits both of his clutch free throws, and just like that, we've arrived at sudden death. One bucket for either team would win the game.
Looking for Davis, gives to Harden, Harden back the other way. Here's Paul for LeBron.
Didn't Harden have a layup?
He had the shot. LeBron played by Giannis.
Captains guarding one another.
There's the pass to Davis, and we got a whistle. A foul is called, so Davis to the line. He can win it at the foul line.
With a chance to end things at the line, AD misses the first, but of course he capitalizes on the second, capping off a comeback win for Team LeBron and maybe the most intense all-star finish we've ever seen. To highlight just how intense we're talking, through 3 quarters of this game, there were a total of 14 fouls, while the team shot a combined 55.5% from the field. In the fourth, 21 fouls, as that's what happens when you're trying to defend superstars, and they shot a combined 16 of 45, or 35.5% from the field. From crashing the glass relentlessly to drawing charges, fighting for position, and deploying high-level concepts on both sides of the ball, the fourth quarter of the 2020 All-Star Game truly featured everything, and we'll have to see if this new USA versus World format can replicate that level of competitive fire.